Roses are red, violets are blue, but the iris is the flower that will mean the end of
But you know what ending I don't hate? The ending to Suspiria. That's right. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for segues into talking about other movies. But don't worry, we're almost done. Suspiria is my favorite. No, I won't say it's my favorite. It's one of my favorites. I actually think The Stenzel Syndrome is my favorite Dario Argento movie. I say that while not exactly knowing if I pronounced the syndrome correctly, but we're just going to move on. We're just going to pretend that I know I said it correctly. Suspiria is great, though. I remember the first time I saw it, I went to a sleepover. I wasn't really allowed to watch a lot of horror movies growing up, so I used to go to this one guy's house to watch horror movies because it was kind of the only place I could watch them. He was like, "Oh, Joey, you're Italian. You're going to love this. This is an Italian horror movie." And I watched it, and I was like, what the heck is this? I'd never seen a movie like it before. I don't want to say I hated it, but I was just really confused. I was like, what's happening? I couldn't figure out, like, what is this movie? And it wasn't till, like, I want to say it was, like, maybe like, a couple months later, I was like, hey, can I borrow that movie? Because just the imagery was just trapped in my head. The soundtrack. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And, you know, I've since seen a lot of movies. I don't want to say the same kind of movies, but movies in a similar vein, a lot more dreamy. It's weird, actually. I remember being into David Lynch at the time. I don't know, maybe my memories are collapsing in on themselves. Yeah, I just remember just like, I got to see this movie again. I love the color in the movie. I love the sound. I know a lot of people can't get past the dubbing in Italian movies, and I love it. To me, that's part of the package. And there's debate among Giallo fans on whether or not Suspiria is a Giallo. And my 2 cents on the matter is, I believe there's a book. I can't remember what it's called. It's an academic book about Giallo, and I don't agree with everything in the book, but he has a list of different kinds of Giallo, and one of them is Giallo Fantastica. I think that's what he wrote. Instead of writing fantastical Giallo, he wrote it like that. But he said that it's a Giallo with a supernatural element. Because there's a lot of fans out there that say that, like, the moment you have a fantastic element, it's no longer a Giallo. So, like, something like Phenomena would not be a Giallo because she can communicate with bugs. And I disagree there. I think that movie is a Giallo, and the weird bug element has very little bearing. But this movie, I think it's Giallo adjacent for sure. I hesitate to call it a Giallo, mainly because I'm afraid of people like attacking me for saying that. But it's definitely Giallo adjacent. I mean, there's like the Black Glove Killer. The only thing that really separates it from a Giallo is it's not a serial killer. It's witches. And honestly, that element, I think the merging of those two things, the supernatural and like the more familiar Giallo format, really creates this really interesting monster. I actually quite like the sequel Inferno quite a bit. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's a whole different animal. And the third movie, Mother of Tears, starts off good and then just becomes the worst movie ever made. But yeah, that first movie, I love the dreamy vibe to it. Like the moment she steps through those doors at the beginning of the movie and gets out into the rain, it just becomes such a surreal experience. It feels like a nightmare. I don't know how the Italians were able to capture that vibe of sleep. I feel like very few American filmmakers have been able to pull that off. I think like David Lynch for sure has pulled it off in a couple of his movies, but like the Italians, like they seem to do it without even trying.